Clear. Clear.
I felt like I was fading away. Next thing I knew, off in the distance, I saw white light.
Jim Anderson was dying from a massive heart attack. The only signs of trouble came a year earlier, but his doctor called the symptoms stress-related. Jim was working 12-hour days as a supervisor at a wastewater treatment plant. But this time, Jim knew it was much more than stress.
I was resting in my bedroom, and all of a sudden I had a crushing pain in my chest, and the pain radiated down the arm, up the side of the neck. Couldn't catch my breath. And I called to my daughter. I said, "You're going to have to get me to the hospital. I'm not going to make it."
A balloon catheter was inserted into his artery. He was stabilized and placed on a heart transplant list. But 2 days later, Jim flatlined.
I could see everyone rushing into the room, but I couldn't hear the alarms going off. It's like I had gone underwater. The hearing had just faded away. That's when I began to pray. I knew I was dying. It wasn't a scared praying. It was earnest to take care of my family. As I prayed, it got darker to the point it went black. Next thing I knew, off in this distance, I saw white light. It was beautiful. Just wasn't blinding, but pure, perfect. As I started to go towards the light, I could see the outer edge of it begin to spiral. And I couldn't figure out what that was. But as I got closer, I could see it was the words of prayers revolving. The words broke off, going into the light. And I followed into the light. The next thing I felt was being embraced, safe and secure. It felt wonderful. It felt like total love. Next thing I knew, I was looking down the room where my body was. I could see everyone working on me. I could hear what they were saying. There were two nurses outside of the room looking in. One said to the other, "Why are they working so hard? He's gone. If they do bring him back, he'll be a vegetable." I later on told her what she said. She about passed out. Then I thought to myself, "Where's Debbie?" And instantly I was in the room where she was.
And I'd just gotten finished with that prayer. You know, use yours, Lord, because I knew that that was the only way he was coming back to us. God wanted him to.
When she did that,
It's yours.
I zoomed right in on her face.
It's yours.
When I saw her face, I saw every aspect of our life together. From the first day we met, our marriage, the birth of our children, all the emotions we've shared. I couldn't leave her. I just couldn't leave her. And I cried out to the Lord. I said, "Lord, I love you so much, but please let me go back." I said, "My wife needs me. My children need me so much. Please let me go back."
The doctors and nurses didn't give up. They shocked Jim so many times that the flesh on his chest was burned. Then, the doctors heard a heartbeat.
I came back to a world of pain. They shocked me so many times. It's like coming back out of the water. Just my hearing came back. I could hear them telling me, "I can't believe it, he's back, he's back." I said, "Can you hear me?" And I took that first breath on my own. Have you ever tasted honeysuckle? That's exactly what that first breath tasted like. It was so sweet, So wonderful. And I just thank the Lord.
Jim was alive, but his heart still wasn't functioning properly.
They put him into a coma, a Medicaid coma, and to allow his body to heal. So I wasn't able to talk to him for days.
Jim spent the next 17 days in intensive care. He flatlined several more times, and each time, Jesus asked him a question.
The subsequent times that I arrested and would go towards the light, he would ask, "Are you sure this is what you want?" And each time I would ask to come back.
Jim woke up from his medical-induced coma. His heart increased in function from 5% to 30%. He no longer needed a heart transplant.
It was a long process, but basically it was good to hear his voice again. Very good to hear his voice again.
His doctor implanted a pacemaker in his chest. Just a couple of days later, Jim was able to make it home in time for his daughter's graduation. One doctor told Jim he only had a year to live. That was over 7 years ago.
It's brought us closer together, so much closer together. We talk about things now, and it's whatever needs to be done for the day, it's done. You know, we don't focus on things that are trivial.
Jim knows that every day he has with his family is a blessing from Jesus Christ.
I try to witness to at least one person a day, to let them know this isn't about me. It's about their life. And to know that He is there for them. And He loves them.
In September 1996, Hurricane Fran slammed into the Carolinas. In the storm's aftermath, Georgia power worker Rick Moncrief was assigned to clear downed power lines in North Carolina. He was on a rooftop trying to pull a line from under a fallen tree when the line snapped. He fell backwards and landed headfirst on the concrete driveway. He was flown to Duke Medical Center. His wife Donna was told to prepare for her husband's funeral.
I felt a lot of fear, and I felt concern, and I had every scenario going through my brain. How am I going to raise 3 daughters by myself? I'm too young to be a widow. You name it, those kind of thoughts came through my head.
Rick had several broken ribs, and his brain was hemorrhaging. 10 minutes after he arrived at the hospital, he slipped into a coma.
He was hooked up to a breathing machine and all kinds of machines. And so I just looked at him, you know, I was like, I was in shock, I think. I couldn't believe that he was laying there. And the doctors were just saying that it was a wait and see game. They didn't know. I believed in prayer, and I knew that Jesus was the healer. In my own strength right that moment, I didn't have that strength in myself to pray. And so I had believers and friends who were praying for me, as well as for Rick, that we would, you know, that we would be able to come through this.
The prayers continued, and by day 5, Rick was still unresponsive. At least it appeared that way.
I was taken into the throne room of God. It was more real than you are. It was so real, and everything was just so white, whiter than white. And I was on my belly, on my face before the Lord, and I saw his feet. His feet is fine burned brass. I didn't see his face. But he asked me, "What do you want to do?" And I kept hearing the scripture over and over. Whose report will you believe? Will you believe the report of the Lord or believe the report of the doctors? And I said, I want to live. I want to live and declare the word of the Lord. And he stood up and he clapped his hands and he said, "That's enough." And when he said, "That's enough," I began immediately to come out of the coma.
His doctor said Rick would never be the same again. Rick and Donna believed differently.
She said, "Well, you're the most luckiest person in the world now that you ever came out of this coma. And you recovered from this fall a little bit, but it'll be 60 months minimum, which is 5 years, before you will ever be 40% back." And I told her, I said, "No, ma'am." I said, "I don't mean any disrespect at all to you, but I said, it's not going to take that long. The Lord's going to do a quick work."
During rehab, Rick says he read Psalms in the Bible, and he and Donna joined their friends and family in prayer.
I was believing for the healing, and my friends were believing for the healing, because we believe by his stripes we are healed.
Each day, his health improved, and after just 27 days of rehab, Rick had a 95% recovery.
When I came back to work at the power company in the early part of 1997, I came back to work full duty.
The faithfulness of God comes to my mind, that our God, at the immediate cry of our heart, will hear us, and he listens, and he's faithful.
The great doctors at these two great hospitals did all they could do, but it was the Father's love. It was his grace. It was his compassion on me to allow me to live today and live these 18 years since this has happened.
Rick later retired from the power company and became a pastor. He cherishes every moment he has with his wife and family and says he doesn't let a day go by without giving thanks to God for his miraculous healing.
Every day is an incredible day. Every day is just, there's always a lot to be thankful for. I'm just thankful that I feel better today than I did yesterday. I'm thankful today that I'm able to stand up. I'm thankful today I don't have a massive headache this morning. I'm thankful today that I'm able to breathe by myself without a machine. I'm just thankful.